The crash. A strange light in the forest. It was a quiet night in a small town. The sky was clear, full of stars. The wind was soft and everything felt calm. Jake, a 22-year-old man, was walking home after a late shift at the gas station. He had his earphones in, listening to music, and enjoying the peaceful air. Suddenly, the music stopped. Jake looked at his phone. "No signal?" he whispered. That was strange. The signal here was always strong. Then he saw something. A bright light flashed across the sky. At first, he thought it was a shooting star, but this was different. The light was too big, and it was silent. It didn't make any sound as it moved fast above the trees. Then it exploded, but it wasn't a normal explosion. There was no loud boom, just a flash like lightning, and then a burning trail fell deep into the forest ahead of him. Jake stood frozen for a moment. "What was that?" he said to himself. His curiosity was stronger than his fear. He ran toward the forest. Air smelled like metal and smoke. As he got closer, he saw trees burned, leaves on fire, and something hot glowing in the distance. He pushed through the bushes. The ground was warm. Birds had flown away. It felt like something had landed or crashed here. Jake could hear a low, soft sound, like crying. He followed the sound, and then he saw her. A girl was lying near a strange object. The object looked like a pod, but it was nothing human. It was smooth, silver, and alive-looking, like it was breathing. The girl was glowing faintly. Her skin was pale but shimmered like glass. Her eyes were half open, silver blue, and her hair floated slightly, like it had no weight. Jake's heart raced. He took a step back. What the hell? The girl turned her head slowly toward him. Her eyes locked with his. She tried to speak, but her voice was weak. "Please, help." Jake didn't move. He was scared, but also shocked. This was not a dream. This was real. She held out her hand. "They are coming." "Who's coming?" Jake asked, looking around. The forest was quiet, but he felt like something was watching. The girl coughed. A soft blue light came from her chest. "I crashed. I ran away." Jake stepped forward slowly. "Are you an alien?" She nodded weakly. "My name is Elira." Then they both heard it. A clicking sound from the trees, and then a second, then another. Jake turned quickly. Red laser dots appeared on the ground near them. His eyes widened. "What is that?" he asked, pulling Elira up by her arm. She was weak, but she stood with his help. "They found me?" "Who?" "Not human," she whispered. "Run." Without thinking, Jake pulled her close and started running. The forest was dark, but Jake knew the path. He had played here as a child. Branches scratched his face, but he didn't stop. Behind them, the clicking sounds got louder. Something was chasing them. Jake could hear metallic footsteps. Elira was breathing fast. They reached a small hill. From there, Jake could see his house in the distance, almost home, but then a loud sound like a pulse shook the ground. Elira screamed. Jake looked back. A tall figure in black armor stepped out of the trees. Its eyes were red, glowing like fire. Elira fell. Jake helped her up. "I can't." "I'm too weak," she said. Jake looked at her, then back at the monster. "You're not dying here. Not tonight." He picked her up in his arms. The black figure pointed a weapon toward them. Just then, bam! A sudden burst of blue light came from Elira's body, pushing the creature back. She fainted in Jake's arms. He ran as fast as he could. Asterisk. The secret visitor. She is not from here. Rain tapped on the rooftop like soft fingers. The sky was gray and morning light barely reached the small wooden house. Jake sat in his room, staring at the alien girl lying on his old couch. A soft silver light still glowed from her skin. She was breathing slowly but steady. His hands were still shaking. He had stayed up all night thinking, what just happened? Who is she? What did I bring into my home? He didn't have answers. Only questions and danger. The room was silent. Only the sound of rain and the slow hum of his mini-heater filled the air. Jake stood up, walked closer, and looked at the strange girl again. Her name was Alira. She wasn't human. That much was clear, but she looked peaceful now, almost like she belonged here. Suddenly, her eyes opened, silver, bright, watching. Jake stepped back. She blinked, confused. Where? Am I? She asked, her voice soft but a little clearer now. My house, Jake replied. I brought you here last night. You fainted. She sat up slowly, holding her side. You shouldn't have helped me. Now they might find you too. Jake crossed his arms. You said they. Who are they? Alira looked at the window as if checking for something. They are hunters, not from this planet. I escaped them. Why were they chasing you? There was silence for a moment. Alira touched her neck where a strange metal mark was glowing. I was born in a place where people like me have no freedom. My kind, we are trained for war. But I didn't want war. I ran. Jake watched her closely. And crashed in my forest? She nodded. My ship was damaged. I used a one-way pod to escape. Jake rubbed his face. Okay, so now what? Do you have anyone here? Any contact? A way home? She shook her head. No, I am alone. The words hit hard. Jake looked at her, really looked. She was scared, tired, far from her world, and possibly the only one of her kind here. He sighed. Then you're not alone anymore, he said. Alira turned to him slowly. Why would you help me? Jake smiled weakly. Because I think you didn't come here to hurt anyone. And maybe you came to the right person. Alira blinked, confused. Humans are different than I thought. Jake laughed. Yeah, we surprise people sometimes. Just then, a loud knock came at the door. Bang. Bang. Jake and Alira froze. Who is it? Jake called out. A deep voice answered. Good morning. Local security. Just asking some questions. Alira's eyes widened. She grabbed Jake's hand. Don't let them see me. Jake nodded. Stay here. Don't make a sound. He walked to the door, trying to stay calm. When he opened it, two men stood outside, one in a local police uniform and the other in a dark suit with sunglasses. Morning, sir, the suited man said. There was a meteor crash last night. Locals saw lights in the forest. Did you hear or see anything strange? Jake shook his head. Nope, I was sleeping. The man tilted his head. Anyone else here? Jake smiled. Just me. The man looked inside the house, scanning everything with sharp eyes. Then he smiled back. All right, if you see anything unusual, call this number. He handed Jake a black card with no name, just a number. Very official. Very strange. Sure, Jake said, taking the card. The two men walked away, but the man in the suit looked back once and stared for a moment too long. Jake closed the door slowly. When he turned around, Alira was already standing behind the curtain. They are not local security, she whispered. They're from another ship. They want to take me. Jake locked the door. Then they're not getting in. Alira sat back down. You don't understand. They can track my energy. Soon they will know I'm here. Jake walked over to his desk and opened his drawer. Inside was an old, dusty lead box. Then we need to hide you, he said. He helped Alira stand. Together they carefully hid the glowing mark on her neck and placed the strange device she wore inside the lead box. Lead blocks radiation, right? Jake asked. Alira nodded, surprised. Yes. How do you know that? Jake shrugged. Too many sci-fi movies. For the first time, she smiled, and in that moment, she looked less like a lost alien and more like a person. Scared, alone but thankful. The hunt begins. They are watching us. It started with the crows. 3 of them, sitting on the power lines outside Jake's house, staring without moving, silent, still. Jake noticed them as he poured water for Alira. Those birds, he muttered, they haven't left since morning. Alira stood by the window. Her skin no longer glowed, but her eyes remained sharp. She looked outside with quiet fear. They're not birds, she whispered. Jake blinked. What do you mean? She stepped back slowly. They're machines, tiny watchers, from the hunter's ship. Jake's hand tightened on the glass. So they've found us. Alira nodded. They are scanning, listening. They don't attack first. They report. Jake closed the curtains. Heart pounding. Then we have to move, fast. But it was already too late. The street outside looked normal. People walked their dogs. A man across the road was cutting grass. Kids played near the sidewalk. But Jake felt that something was off. Too quiet. Too perfect. He packed a small bag. Food, first aid, and Alira's lead box. Can you travel? He asked. I'll try. She replied. They stepped out the back door, moving quickly through the narrow alley between houses. Jake had a plan, reach his uncle's old cabin deep in the woods. No cameras, no phone signals. Just trees and silence. But the silence didn't stay long. As they reached the edge of the neighborhood, a black van turned the corner, slowly, quietly. Jake grabbed Alira's hand. Run. They darted into the forest. Branches scratched their faces. Roots tripped their feet. But they didn't stop. Behind them, they heard the sound. Metallic feet. Soft but fast, like hunters walking on dry leaves. Alira winced in pain. Her steps slowed. Jake held her arm. Come on, we're almost there. They slid down a hill. Mud covered their clothes. Ahead, the trees opened. Jake spotted the small wooden cabin, half broken, untouched for years. He kicked the door open. Inside, dust filled the air. The place smelled like wet wood and old memories. He helped Alira sit on a couch. She was breathing heavily. Then the silence returned. Jake grabbed the hunting rifle his uncle left years ago. Probably useless, but it made him feel less helpless. Alira touched her chest. They are close? Jake moved to the window and peeked through the broken blinds. Nothing. Then movement. A figure stood between the trees. Not human, tall, black armor. Red lights on its head. Another one appeared. Then another. Jake whispered. They're surrounding. You us? Alira looked up. Give me the box. Jake handed it over. She opened it, pulling out a small crystal. It glowed softly. This is a beacon, she said. It can call for help, but only once. Help from who? Alira looked into his eyes. Someone like me. Maybe, if they hear it. Jake hesitated. What if they don't? Then we fight, she said. He laughed nervously. Great. Suddenly, a loud bang shook the wall. The hunters had found them. Jake raised the rifle. His hands trembled. The door exploded open. A hunter stepped inside. Its face was smooth metal with no mouth. Just 2 glowing red eyes. Jake fired. The bullet bounced off its armor. The hunter lifted its hand. A red pulse hit Jake, throwing him across the room. Alira screamed. She stood, holding the crystal close to her heart. It glowed brighter. The hunter turned toward her. Leave him alone, she whispered. The room shook. A shock wave of blue light burst from her body. The hunter flew backward, crashing through the wall. Jake opened his eyes. His head hurt. His chest burned, but Alira was still standing, glowing, floating an inch above the floor. More hunters rushed in. Alira looked down. At Jake. Close your eyes. He did, and everything went white. When Jake woke up, the cabin was half destroyed. Smoke filled the air. Alira was sitting beside him, her hand on his. They're gone, she said. For now. Jake sat up, groaning. What happened? I used energy I didn't know I had, she said softly. But it's fading. Jake looked around. This isn't over, is it? Alira shook her head. No, this was just the beginning. Jake took her hand. Then we stay ahead of them, together. Outside, far in the trees, a small drone flew quietly above the trees, watching, recording, and then it vanished. Asterisk. Her powers awaken. The truth about Alira. The cabin was quiet again, but not peaceful. Jake sat by the broken window, staring out at the misty trees. His face was bruised and his mind was heavy. Sunlight barely touched the forest floor. It felt like the world had paused, waiting for something. Inside, Alira lay on the floor, eyes closed, body still. Her glow had faded. Jake had wrapped her in an old blanket. He checked her pulse, still beating, still warm. But something had changed. She used too much energy, Jake whispered to himself. She saved me, but at what cost? He sat beside her and held her hand. It felt colder than before. You can't leave me like this, he said softly. I don't even know what you really are. As if hearing his words, her hand twitched. Then her eyes opened, but they weren't just silver now. They were glowing white. Jake moved back. Alira? She sat up slowly. Her hair floated again, and a strange energy sparkled around her skin. Her voice was deeper, layered, almost like two people speaking together. I remember now, she said, who I was, who I am. Jake looked at her, unsure. What are you talking about? Alira touched the crystal on her chest, the beacon. I wasn't just a soldier, she said, her voice calm but sad. I was a weapon, created to destroy. Jake stood up. What? I wasn't born. I was designed, she continued. Built by my creators to lead the war. I escaped because I couldn't follow the order they gave me. Jake's voice cracked. What order? Her eyes dimmed. To erase your planet. Silence filled the room. Jake stepped back, shocked. You were sent here to destroy Earth? Alira nodded slowly. But I didn't. I couldn't. I saw your world from above. The colors, the life, the people. I wanted to see more. I wanted to feel more. Jake looked into her glowing eyes. He didn't see a killer. He saw someone lost. Someone broken. Why are you telling me this now? He asked. Because you deserve the truth, she said. And because I don't want to lie to the only person who's ever helped me. Without fear. Jake took a deep breath. He walked toward her, knelt beside her again. You're not a weapon anymore, he said. Alira looked down. But I'm still dangerous. He reached out and gently placed his hand on hers.
So is a storm, so is fire. But they're not evil.
Alira's lips trembled. Her hand tightened around his. For the first time, she felt human. But the moment was short. A beep came from the beacon. Alira grabbed it. Someone is nearby. Another signal. Jake stood up quickly. Another hunter? She shook her head. No, this one feels like me. Outside the cabin, a strange hum filled the air. The trees swayed without wind. Leaves lifted like they were weightless. From the sky, a glowing orb descended slowly. It landed just beyond the clearing. Alira stood in the doorway, her hair moving with invisible energy. It's from my world. But it's not sent to attack. Jake grabbed the rifle again. Then what is it? Alira stepped forward. I think It's someone who escaped. Like me. They moved slowly toward the orb. As it opened, a tall figure stepped out. A man or something close to it. Silver skin, glowing blue lines across his arms. Illyra, the figure said, you're alive. Illyra's eyes widened. Taran? Jake watched them. Who's that? Taran smiled. She and I were created together. Same lab, same purpose. But I escaped before her. Jake narrowed his eyes. Then why didn't she know you were alive? Taran looked at Illyra. Because they wiped her memory before launch. Illyra's hands trembled. You left me? I tried to save you, Taran said softly. But they found out. I thought you were dead. The tension was heavy. Jake stepped between them. Why are you here now? Taran looked at Jake carefully. Because she called for help. And now they will come in greater numbers. If we don't leave soon, Earth will burn. Illyra looked at Jake. Tare and continued. We can take her home. There's a ship waiting in orbit, but humans can't come. Illyra shook her head. I won't leave him. You don't belong here, Taran replied. She looked at Jake. But maybe I do. Jake stared at the two aliens standing before him. One from the stars, one who chose to stay. I don't want you to leave, Jake whispered, but I won't stop you. Illyra turned to Taran. Then you go. Tell them I'm gone. One choose. This world, Taran sighed. You're risking everything. I already did, she said, looking at Jake. As the orb rose and disappeared into the sky, Jake and Illyra stood in the quiet woods, alone again, but something had changed. Her powers had awakened. And so had her heart. The choice, run or fight. The rain had stopped, but the sky was still crying light. Jake stood on the cabin's rooftop, eyes on the stars. Somewhere out there, a ship waited, silent, cold, ready to take Illyra far away. But she was still here. Inside, Illyra stared at her hands. They were glowing again, not because of fear, but because something inside her had changed. She wasn't running anymore. Jake came down, brushing leaves from his jacket. He saw her sitting still, lost in thought. Everything okay? He asked. Gently. She looked up. I don't know what okay means anymore. Jake sat across from her. Fair. For a moment, they said nothing. Only the wind spoke. Then Illyra broke the silence. I keep hearing a voice in my mind. Jake frowned. Like, your creators? She nodded. They're calling me back. They think they can still control me. Jake leaned forward. Can they? She shook her head. No, but they can destroy this planet trying. Jake rubbed his forehead. So what happens if you leave with that ship? You go back to your world? No. She said, they won't let me live. I betrayed them. I broke code. They'll study me or kill me slowly. Jake's fists clenched. That's not a choice. That's a trap. Illyra stood up and walked to the door. Outside, the trees looked peaceful again. But she could feel it. Deep underground, above the clouds, they were watching. I have power, she said. More than I knew, but I don't know how to use it fully. Not yet. Jake joined her at the doorway. Then we learn. We fight. She looked at him. But why would you risk everything? For me? He smiled softly. Because the first time I saw you, you asked for help. And when I helped you, the world changed. And so did I. Illyra blinked, her voice trembling. You're not afraid of me? Jake shook his head. I'm afraid of losing you. Later that night, they stood in the forest clearing. Illyra opened the lead box again. Inside was the glowing core from her pod, small, bright, and humming with strange energy. This is what powers my kind, she explained. It can open a door, one way. It can take me to the stars, but only once. Jake looked at it. And you're sure you don't want to go? She looked up at the sky. Eyes soft. I do. A small part of me does. Because it's easier. But? Jake asked. But. Running isn't living. Not anymore. A sudden sound interrupted them. A mechanical roar, distant but coming closer. Jake's heart jumped. Drones? Alira's eyes narrowed. Worse, they've sent a scout leader, a tracker. She closed the box quickly. We have two options. Use the core to escape, or destroy it and fight. Jake looked at her. If we stay, they'll keep coming. She nodded. But if we run, they'll follow and Earth will never be safe. Jake walked away for a moment, thinking. Then he turned to her. We destroy the core, he said. Alira's eyes widened. Are you sure? You're not going anywhere without me, he said, and I'm not done with you yet. She smiled, sad but warm. Then we make our stand. They walked to the lake near the edge of the forest. It was still and quiet. Lyra held the glowing core in her hands one last time. This held my freedom, she said. Jake reached for her hand. No, we hold your freedom now. Alira dropped the core into the water. The lake lit up for a moment, like the stars had fallen in, and then it sank. Dark again. No going back. They had made their choice. Back at the cabin, Alira began to train. She focused her energy, lifted small rocks with her mind, learned how to bend light, how to feel the heartbeat of the earth. Jake helped, bringing food, maps, batteries, hope. You're getting stronger, he said one day. No, she replied. We are. But far above the earth? The enemy had seen enough. From a dark command ship hidden behind the moon, a voice echoed. She has chosen the human. Send the destroyers. And deep in the shadows, something ancient opened its red eyes. The betrayal. One of us is lying. It started with a familiar voice. Jake? The voice echoed faintly through the old radio in the cabin. He froze. That voice hadn't called in weeks. Not since this all began. He picked up the walkie from the desk. Tom? Jake answered slowly. The voice came back shaky. Yeah, man. Are you okay? People are saying you disappeared. Jake's hands tightened around the radio. Tom was his oldest friend. His only real friend in this town. The guy who always had his back. I'm fine, Jake replied. Just needed to get away for a while. You at the cabin? Tom asked casually. Jake paused. A chill ran down his spine. Why do you ask? The line crackled. Then Tom whispered, Jake, listen. They're looking for her. They're listening to everything. You need to be careful. Jake's breath caught in his throat. Tom, how do you know about her? But the line went dead. Inside, Alira stood by the fireplace, holding a cracked mirror in her hand. She stared at her reflection like she didn't trust it. Jake walked in slowly. You okay? She nodded, not looking at him. Something feels wrong. The air tastes watched. Jake sat near her. I think someone close to me might have told them. About us, Alira turned. A human? My friend, Tom. She lowered her eyes. Then it begins. That night, Jake couldn't sleep. His mind replayed every memory of Tom. Late-night movies, childhood games, deep talks at the lake. Could he really betray him? Alira watched him quietly from across the room. You don't have to choose between us, she said softly. Jake looked up. But I already did, the moment I helped you. Alira walked to him, sat beside him. I'm not angry at him. Fear makes people weak, even the strong ones. Jake sighed. If they know you're here, they won't stop. Alira placed her hand on his chest. Then we stop hiding. But before she could say more, an explosion shook the ground. The cabin windows shattered. Jake pulled Alira down behind the couch. Outside, lights flashed between the trees. Voices called out, Move in, check the structure. Jake looked at her. Too late. They ran through the back exit. Into the trees, drones flew overhead. Heat sensors scanned the dark. Jake led Alira through the same path they used when escaping before, but this time it felt tighter, colder. Every branch seemed to whisper, "They're coming." Suddenly, they heard a voice behind them. "Jake, wait!" It was Tom. Jake turned, pointing the old rifle. "Stop!" Tom raised his hands. He looked tired, dirty, and desperate. "I didn't tell them where you were," Tom shouted. "But they followed me. I thought I could warn you." Alira looked at Jake, her expression unreadable. Tom stepped forward. "You have to trust me, man. I'm here to help." Jake lowered the gun slowly. "Then help us disappear," Jake said. "No more questions." Tom nodded. "Follow me." There's an old bunker near the ridge. The bunker was cold and buried beneath years of moss and vines. Inside, it smelled like rust and secrets. Alira stood in the center of the room, eyes closed. "This place is safe, for now." Jake leaned against the wall, catching his breath. "We need time, just a few days." Tom looked nervous. "They're deploying something new. A tracker unit that can read biosignatures. If she's within 5 miles, they'll know." Alira opened her eyes. "Then we leave this place soon." Jake stared at Tom. "Why are you really helping us?" Tom hesitated. "Because you helped me once, when no one else did." But Alira didn't blink. And Jake noticed something. Her posture changed. She was reading him. After Tom left to secure the outside, Alira turned to Jake. "He's lying." Jake tensed. "How can you tell?" "I can sense emotions. Truth has a pattern." His heartbeat skipped when he spoke. Jake cursed under his breath. "Then he led them here." Alira stepped closer. "Not yet, but he will. He's afraid. And someone made him choose." An hour later, Jake found Tom sitting alone outside the bunker, pretending to smoke. "You should go," Jake said quietly. Tom looked up. "You know?" Jake nodded. "She knows, and now I do too." Tom threw the fake cigarette. "I didn't mean for this to happen, Jake. They found my sister. They said they'd hurt her if I didn't lead them to you." Jake's eyes narrowed. "So what now?" Tom looked broken. "There's still time. I can mislead the scanners. I can buy you 12 hours. But that's it." Jake turned to leave. Tom called out, "I didn't want to betray you." Jake didn't turn around. "You didn't betray me, Tom. You betrayed her." Back inside, Alira was already packing. She looked up. Jake nodded. "We go, now." She didn't ask what happened. She already knew. As they stepped into the woods again, Alira whispered, "Trust is rare. Hold it carefully." Jake looked back once at the bunker, at his best friend, now lost in silence, and then he walked into the trees, hand in Alira's. This time, they wouldn't run forever. This time, they would fight. The final stand. "Will you stay with me?" The sky was not blue anymore. It glowed red, not from the sunset, but from the ships. They hovered above Earth's edge like shadows ready to fall. Giant, silent, watching, waiting. Below in a mountain cave, Jake lit a flare. "Alira, they're here." Alira stepped out from the shadows. Her eyes were calm, but her energy flickered like a storm behind glass. "I know," she whispered. "They've come to finish it." Jake looked up through the crack in the cave ceiling. "That doesn't look like a rescue fleet." "No," she replied. "That's the execution class, the one sent when words fail." Jake clenched his jaw. "So we were never going to be left alone." Alira touched his shoulder. "They fear what I've become, what we've become." He looked into her eyes. "Then let's show them." Hours passed. The skies roared louder. Cities across the world began to notice. People panicked. Governments denied. But above them all, Alira stood in the mountains with Jake beside her. This time, she wasn't running. She opened her palms and drew a symbol in the air with glowing light. A soft hum filled the space. Energy moved around her like wind around fire. Jake stepped back, watching. "What are you doing?" "Calling them directly," she said. "There's no hiding anymore." Suddenly the air cracked open, like lightning but quiet. A black figure stepped through the tear and space. Landing in front of them, it wasn't like the others. It was larger, older, wiser. Its voice echoed from inside its body. "Alira, you have broken code. You disobeyed your purpose. Surrender." Alira's voice didn't shake. "I've seen this world. I've lived as one of them, and I choose to protect it." Jake stood beside her. "She's not yours anymore." The figure tilted its head. "You are weak, human." Jake smiled. "Maybe, but we don't give up." The figure raised its hand and the mountain trembled. Dozens of smaller ships descended. The invasion had begun. Alira turned to Jake. "There's one way to stop this. I can overload my core. Create a pulse that disables their entire fleet." Jake's eyes widened. "You'll die." She nodded. "Yes, but they'll leave, and Earth will be safe." Jake grabbed her arms. "No, there has to be another way." "There isn't," she said softly. "I was designed as a weapon. Now I'll be one last time, by choice." He stepped back, pain on his face. "Why do you always want to save me?" She smiled. "Because you were the first person who saw me as more than what I was built to be." He shook his head. "I won't let you do it alone." Alira blinked. "Jake?" He pulled something from his pocket, the beacon core. "When you dropped it in the lake, I fished it out later. Just in case." She stared at him. "I don't care where it sends me," Jake said. "If you leave this world, I'm going with you. If you stay, I stay." Tears formed in her glowing eyes. "You don't understand what that means." Jake smiled. "I don't need to. I just know one thing." He took her hand. "Will you stay with me?" Alira nodded. And then the sky broke open. They flew together. Alira carried him through the air, surrounded by waves of blue energy. The ships turned toward them, locking on. She whispered, "Hold on." Then she opened her arms. A blinding sphere of light formed around them. One ship fired, then another. But before the missiles hit, Alira exploded in light, not in destruction. But transformation. She didn't burn. She ascended. Her body dissolved into pure energy. Connecting with the pulse core in Jake's hand, a massive wave blasted across the sky, shutting down ships, burning wires, freezing enemy systems in space. The invasion fleet collapsed like dying stars, and then silence. Jake woke up on the grass. Alive. Alone? No. He heard her voice, soft like wind. "I'm not gone. I'm just changed." He looked around, tears in his eyes. "Where are you?" "Everywhere. In the sky. In this planet, I became what I was afraid of, and what I was meant to be." He sat quietly. "Thank you for showing me love, choice, and home." Jake whispered, "I'll wait, however long it takes." Above him, the sky slowly turned blue again.